Welcome back, and in this segment we will be talking about the African-Chinese Forum which kicked off in Beijing, and about the participation, of course, of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in it, and the signing of several memorandums of understandings in the various fields, and we will be discussing the importance of it on the economic level. And I'm happy to have with me Ambassador Mohamed Husseiny, and of course he is the director and head of the economic department and at the United Nations Association. Welcome with us, Dr.
Welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, Ambassador Husseiny. Ambassador Husseiny, how do you see the significance of Egypt's participation at the China-Africa Forum, which started yesterday, of course, with the participation of 52 African leaders, and of course with the participation of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi?
Actually, the participant of Egypt, we can put it in a special position or a special place, because Egypt have important position to China investment and international trade between the two countries. And when we talk first about that forum, the China-Africa Forum, the FOCAC, which started this is the seventh round to the forum, when China announced the Al Harir route that will connect China with Europe and Africa as well. We here need first, before we go through the position to Egypt and the outcome of the forum, to see why China concentrate about Africa itself. If we see here, we see what Africa can give to China and what China can give to Africa. First, we have in Africa 60% of the lands for the agriculture, healthy lands can be planted and can bring out, come out of covering the needs of the food supplies. And the second thing, the logistic positions of Suez Canal, and as well South Africa, and how it will come to them plan in connecting them commercial trade between the three lands, which is Asia and Africa and Europe. And the third part is Africa have 6% of the world storage of the metal and petrochemical natural resources that China needs. 6.3% of the gas exploration, it's also in Africa. And as well here, when we look to China, as we know that the Asian country or the East Asian countries, they don't have the natural resources, they import it. And China especially, when we look to its foreign affairs, we call it as the cleanest country in the world. China, when they get, it deals basically, we can consider it 85% of its foreign policy in the economical field. And when they give a support or over grants or loans or whatever kind of donations to the in-needs countries, they give it without conditions. Not look like the other countries in the other world, which they have the powerful financial tools. They will put a condition to you, or look like the international banks or the international organization. But in China, with Africa, they have a strong bond and a strong connection in supporting the countries and the development and the sustainable development in the African countries. This is how we can consider the connection between China and Africa. And if we look in the other hand for the commercial out and ingoing between China and Africa, it's reached the last year $170 billion, and they have a liquid investment, direct investments in the African countries exceeded $300 billion, and that increase have been come in the last 12 years. So here you are talking an active giant investor in the land of Africa. This is how I see the relation between China and Africa itself. If we come to Egypt, we have we can consider it as we talked last year also in the same forum. We always talking about Egypt and China. We have a special position with them. How long the diplomatic relation between Egypt and China? It's over than 60 years.
Yes, indeed.
And Egypt, it was the first country who announced that the Republic of China is the country after they make the change of the administration policy over there. And the President Abdel Nasser, he was the first president who accept and open an embassy to China in the world. So here, between Egypt and China, there is a long run in the relation. The participant of Egypt itself in this forum, it represents for China 3 major points. The first major point is the logistic. Because China looked to Egypt here as a logistic spot for the Zoom Corridor to the Suez Canal, and as well for the new infrastructure projects that they are aiming to have. So the participant to us, we have a new economical forum, which is they are taking it now in Africa as a successful example in how they can make a sustainable development in them countries. So we are having a special and strong position that President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi now is using this in that forum in a successful way.
Yeah. Mr. Ambassador, during or on the sidelines of the forum, the chairman of the Suez Canal Authority, Vice Admiral Mohamed, signed 3 contracts with specialized Chinese companies in the fields of textile as well as plasterboard industry, non-woven products industry, and modern raw materials, with investments that exceeded $1 billion. Now, how do you see that, and how can we benefit the utmost from the Chinese investments in the Suez Canal zone?
He signed this contracts and memos of understanding by 1.1 billion, to be specific about the number.
Okay.
And for those projects, the first project about the textile, this is important project to us. To have this in our Zoom Corp in Suez Canal, it meaning we are importing 36.4% of the imported goods to Egypt. So imagine that. Here in Egypt, we have the traders. They are importing for the textile and the clothing and other materials is going also in the same industry by this amount. This amount you can consider as what we calculated by $80 billion that Egypt is importing goods from outside. You are talking about over than $20 to $23 billion. When you cut this from the imported goods to Egypt, it means what? It means, number one, you are providing 11.2 thousand jobs to the Egyptians in this industry. Number two, you are cutting, bringing out your foreign currency for importing these goods and take it in the Egyptian market, and then you will export it in North Africa and the countries of the region. So the textile industry, it's an important industry, so important. So imagine that converting your spot from an importing place which consuming this kind of products to restructured to be exporting from your own zone. This is, of course, this is one of the most important contracts that we need, Mr. Mamish, to assume that this contract will be happen in the next months. The other 2 projects, because I write it here, the Taishan for the poster and the other one for the petrochemical, it's a Xiamanyan. These 2, the petrochemical complex that will be in Zone 3 or Zone 4 in the Zone Corp to Suez Canal, it's also for sampling the raw material and the exploration coming from the gas planets to us in the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. That we will take the raw material and recycle it as an industrial cycle to have a petrochemical goods that we can use it in our local market. So also you are cutting important this kind of goods and manufacturing it in your own country. And the third one for the lapister and the gypsum parts, that will go, this Egypt is consuming over than 46.3% of this kind of raw material in the new infrastructures ways, and also in the administrative city and in the development of the properties in Egypt.
Yeah.
So imagine that you are also make it in the local market. So this 1.1 billion dollar agreements that Mr. Mamish have signed is I can see it's a reflection of a good movement, and they plan it well in a changing Egypt from a consuming country to be a manufacturing country in the region, using its natural resources and logistic position.
Yes. Ambassador Husseiny, also many agreements were signed in the field of space and technology as well. How do you see the importance of these agreements and memoranda of understanding?
I will stop here about how China provide technology, because there is other also. I will return back to how I start the interview by that China is dealing in a clean foreign policy. When they are giving this technology industry and technology tools, we know that China, it's one of the leading countries in the planet in this kind of industry. If you are making a joint venture corporation with those companies, or even the government departments in that kind of industry with the other countries, they will give it to you limited. How limited? They will not give you the full the full technology tools. Why? Because if you go in the space technology and even the technology solution as a country now, and exceeded those tools by let's say by 4 or 5 degrees to the other countries, it means that you have become one of the leading countries in that industry. When you are dealing with the United States of America or in the European countries, especially, I'm talking about this, they will not open it to you all. They will limitalize this. But China, with the African countries and how the importance that they know that to make a sustainable development, number one is you need the technology solution and the technology industry. Now they are starting to implement a new way of opening a new institutes and centers, which will be a corporation centers by the expertise in these sectors to train the Egyptians engineers and as well the superior of this industry. So you will build a new generation having these tools from the local market. This is number one. And number two, they are now finishing the memo of understanding that we have did since 1 year ago about the space technology and the space exploration to Egypt. And I can see that they are going in a very prospective way in this kind of industry. And we can also find in the next 3 to 4 months coming up a new projects of this industry.
Indeed.
Mr. Ambassador, in addition to that, of course, the media has been tackling the electric train. And of course, the start of the deal was in Xiamen in 2017, but now we have the deal inked down, and there are people are really optimistic about it because it's going to link the administrative capital with the area of Medina Salam, or the city of Salam, the 10th of Ramadan, Bilbais. So how do you see that particular project?
If we talk about this project, we will categorize it and divide it under the infrastructure project that China have participated in the last 3 years in the 5,000 kilometers and the tunnels and the bridges they have did. The electronic train here, they bought one of the I can put it from my own perspective, what's an important and significant agreement that we have win the Chinese corporation in the safety. This is number one, because further to our railway stations and system, it's since how many years?
Of
It's
course.
since ages, right?
Yeah.
And you are maintaining that, but the safety standards, it's not reaching the 50 to 60%. But the electronic train, when me myself go to Asia and China especially, and see how they reach in this kind of industry to become the first or the second. They was the second country in the world in manufacturing these trains and putting a new technology, clean technology that you will not use here. You will not use here the gas or the petrol products in enhancing the what you call this, the operation of this railway. To have this train, electric train, as a mega project to the country, you are looking here in who will operate that, and what will be the outcome of this, what the people will benefit for this. You can look to the time management of this train is providing, and the second thing is, as what I started, the safety they are putting, that safety is reaching 97% compared to our railways right now. So I consider it's also an important project, and it's going also to be accomplished and finished in the next coming months as well.
Yes, indeed. Ambassador Husseiny will go to a short break, and after that we'll be back to continue our interview.
Welcome back, and we were talking about the Chinese African Forum, which kicked up in Beijing, and we were accompanied by Ambassador Mohamed Al Husseiny, the head of the Economic Committee at the United Nations Association. We were talking about the important memorandums of understandings signed, and before that we were talking about a variety of these memorandums. One of the important ones as well is the clean coal as well. How do you see that?
A clean coal, I can consider here that Egypt is dividing its power resources to a new scene. Because as we have did in the last 4 years under the new development happen in our country in the power and the energy industry, in the exploration of the gas coming in the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea and also the West Desert, now changing or not changing, opening a new door for that kind of industry. It's not, we can call it, it's the same to the gas and the oil and the petrol, because it's have the same kind of population standard, It's not bringing out as how the people, when they hear that, they will look to the black and white movies and look to the black smoke, and they will say that will affect. No, this kind of industry, it's totally environment friend. And as well, the Chinese expertise in that manner, putting that for development, the electricity megawatt power planet to us, because that will provide 6,000 mega to our electricity capacity to the whole country. So I can see we have this natural resource. It's not developed, not being used. To see the administration is looking to this line and bringing the expertise, which will not affect, and this is the most important, will not affect our environment, our land, our people, and developing and increasing our electricity capacity. No, I find this is also a prospective and an important agreement that they achieve, and it was a good job for them.
Yes. Sir, His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, in his speech before the China-Africa Cooperation Summit, offered the Suez Canal as an industrial hub and logistical hub in order to develop the navigation in the international navigation and to boost, of course, the international trade as well. How do you see that statement by the President?
Why President Fattah al-Sisi announced that or talk about that before the summit or before the summit? Why he mentioned that? Because when you go to the country in the economical forums, you are being observed.
Of course.
By the international organizations and the businessmen
and investors.
The investors. This is the businessmen, because the investors will look, okay, Egypt, it's a historical country, they have made an economical reform. We are seeing over then 11,000 projects have been done over there. It's a safe country. It's a country now going in a new era of achievements is happening to them. Okay, that's good. You guys is giving facilities or no? This is what the investor look to you. So President Fattah al-Sisi is a smart manager. I call him like that when it's come to how he represent the nation, because he didn't. Of course, he talk in the political view, and the changes have been come from the revolution in June 30, and how Egypt take a new curve going upper to have the authentication of the Moody's establishment, of the IMF, and why he is, before also we go to Suez Canal, because this is, as what you say, the investors. They look to you if your country is certified or not,
of course,
authenticated or not.
Indeed.
Here, what we see is Egypt get accredited, and we come to the degree of B3 in the international organizations and the financial houses, and this is, I can call it, it's a positive green view to Egypt economic reform. So here, to approach the interest of the investors, you need to show them what you have.
Yes.
Okay, you said, and President Sisi also announced about the investment law, announced that Egypt, we have changed the bureaucratic system to the investor, to the foreign and local investors, that they can come and having an investment center. That center is providing A to Z service for you to establish your company, to finish your paperwork, to do everything. In a day or two maximum, you can open your company if you have the requirement documents and as well the financial fees for establishing your investment. Okay, this is also good. So we have now two strong and important things. This is how President Sisi is presenting, okay?
Of course.
Number three, here he is announcing the big industrial logistic hub in the region.
Yes.
What is the interest of the Chinese? Chinese investors, they are one of the smartest, or I can consider them or call that from my own perspective, number one investors in the planet. They increase them country foreign trade to be number one, to invade the whole world for the Chinese products. So they have one problem. To reach Europe or to reach Africa, the logistics is giving them a high fees. This fees is adding to the products. The Chinese products, is that not expensive? Not look like the European or the American products. So to add this value of the pricing and to put a new level of international competition to the basket of products, you need to come in a centralized logistic spot to distribute your products and cutting out a 41.6% of your fees degree to the consumer. So imagine, I'll give you an example. If you are buying a pencil case, at that pencil case it costs us by pound, here £5. Why? Because is importing that he is buying that pencil case by, for example, £1. And he will pay something like 1.5 pound, so it will be 2.5 pounds to reach the customs here. And to bring it out to the local market, it will become 3.5 pounds. So he will sell it by £5. But if, and this is number one. Number two, President Sisi is targeting these investors to come and make this manufacturing hubs and manufacturing and industrial zones, so Egypt can sit in any industrial forum to the giant industrial countries and talk as we manufacturing. But you cannot do this by your own investors. You need to have this corporation. So this pencil case, as the example we put, you will not import it, so you will not pay it by dollar or by the yuan, because Mr. Tariq Amir, the central bank director, have announced before 4 or 5 months ago that now Egypt, after the yuan have been approved in the international currencies basket to be going in the foreign trade, that Egypt and China now is exchanging their own currency in the trade. So it's look like you are buying by the pound and they are selling to you by the yuan by over than $2.7 billion. So this industrial hub, it's you are bringing those investors here. So you solve for them the main issue of the logistics, and as well will export it to Europe with the cheap logistic fees. So the outcome, of course, will come by a 60% to the Chinese investors and 40% to the hosting country, which is Egypt.
Yes, indeed.
Well, Ambassador Mohamed Al-Husseiny, the head of the Economic Committee at the United Nations Association, I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you very much for
Can I
this
add
interview.
one thing before
yes,
we
of course,
close?
definitely.
Because this is important about the individual meetings that President Sisi have made with President al-Bashir in Sudan and the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, and as well the other African leaders. But I will take these two leaders as well to highlight here that there is a lot of we call them enemies now, come in the front line in the media, say Egypt and Sudan and Ethiopia, the foreign policy to us, it's coming in a critical way. Our leader and those leaders sit and talk about a lot of cooperation, brotherhood relation, and come with outcome with a new investment cooperation projects between Egypt and Sudan, and as well to solve the Nahda Dam in Ethiopia in the coming 6 months, with not attacking Egypt water amount. I'm sorry if
Indeed, thank you very much, Ambassador Husseiny, and have a good day.
Thank you so much.
And a short break, our dear viewers, and after that we'll be back to resume the segments of the breakfast show. So stay tuned.